Hey there, YouTube. Welcome to Monday's edition of The Breakfast Club. I've got that funk. Thanks for joining me. So, this week on The Breakfast Club, we've been discussing incest. And I want to thank JJ Talks for bringing this subject up because I have to admit that it has really challenged me. And that doesn't happen very often. So, thanks for that. And the thing about it is, I agree with the intellectual consensus with everyone else as far as it goes. But I'm sorry, um, I the intellectual consensus be damned because I'm gonna talk about my emotional reaction to this, um, because I don't think that's irrelevant, and it's not just a matter of going ooh to me, although that's a huge part of it. I want to explain something. Like for me, I once had a conversation. I think it was around the time the movie Premonition came out with Sandra Bullock in it, and a friend of mine and myself were discussing it, and she asked me if I fancied Sandra Bullock, and I said, "Well, I can't fancy Sandra Bullock." She's like, "Why not?" I said, "Because she looks almost exactly like my sister. I mean, every single time I look at Sandra Bullock, I see my sister, and therefore I just can't fancy her. I can recognize that she's a beautiful woman. Nothing happens for me. I just look at her and go, "Oh, it's my sister," you know, and it's not my sister. So the emotional response to me is uh, it's interesting because like all the intellectual caveats my colleagues have talked about, I completely agree with. If there's, as long as there's no power dynamic being abused, and as long as everyone's consenting and whatever, you ought to be okay with it. You ought to be. I don't know if I could be. I'm not. I wonder if that makes me a incest bigot, because I honestly don't know. I was once acquainted with a brother and sister. This is 30 years ago or more than 30 years ago now, um, who were both born in 1963. They weren't twins, but they're both born the same year. And they were disturbingly close. There's no other way to put it. And I don't really want to elaborate too much. Suffice to say that I don't necessarily think they were sexually active together, but they were like close in a way I've never seen siblings. It was hard to wrap my head around at the time, and everybody thought that they were incestuous. I don't want to jump to that kind of conclusion, but they were. It was odd, man. I mean, and it created a revulsion in me that shouldn't exist, because I tried, and I still try now, in reflection, to reserve judgment. I don't know what happened. It just felt wrong, just to observe. On the other hand, I used to say to my other friends, you got to give them balls, because, there must not, I would say there must not be something going on, because if there was something going on, they're too obvious about it, right? If you would think, they wouldn't want people to know. So, I just thought, it was just some kind of innate closeness because they're so close in age, both being born the same year. Don't know. So it's interesting to me that I'm not normally very closely connected with my emotions as often as some people I'm acquainted with. I tend to ride over my emotions an awful lot as I suppose, a defense mechanism, and it's gotten me through life pretty well. But it doesn't exist without flaws, and it's not always right. And this is a good situation to explore in that regard, because I want to be okay with it, but I have to say, if there was no power dynamic being violated, and there was no lack of, if consent was obvious and mutual and everything, and the couple seemed happy, what the fuck is wrong with me? Why couldn't I be okay with that? Intellectually, I am okay with that, but it would twist me up. I would have to make an effort to treat them as if I didn't think it was weird. It would be really hard for me to do that. And this makes me think about, that's why I say about being an incest bigot, because it makes me think about people who have a revulsion to, what other alternative lifestyles there might be, and I don't just mean about sexuality. I'm well, in a sense, I suppose I am, because I'm talking about people who are into kink and stuff. I mean, some people, it's hard to admit that to some people. And, so it's like, where does this stuff come from? Where does I mean, people want to put it down to, evolution and biology, and I'm sure that's true to some degree, but I also wonder how much is just pure social construct as well. Um, you know, I'm not sure. It's hard to imagine. I'm never 100% sure where the emotional response comes from for me. You know, it's just hard to wrap my head around how it could be consensual and there's nothing being violated. It's just so hard for me to put myself in that position, and I try to be a really empathetic person most of my time. And this just is something I can't. And it's, I think, worth pointing that out. So yeah, intellectually, whatever. In reality, I don't know. I don't know how hard it would be for me to personally deal with that in my face. I'd have to really, really like the people involved to want to make the effort. And I suppose that reflects poorly on me. But that's just me trying to be as honest about it as I can be. Anyway, I want to thank you guys for your contributions to this. I look forward to seeing how JJ wraps this up, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what Landon brings up on Wednesday. So thanks for watching. Let's get busy talking about it in the comments section, and I'll see you again next week. Ciao for now.